Welcome everyone to a very different video here at Needles at the Ready. I'm lucky enough to be with Dave, who's one of the owners of Daedalus, to talk about their company and a new product. Dave, if you want to start with telling us a little bit about yourself and Daedalus.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. First off, I really appreciate you having me on the show. Um, we, I'm almost a little starstruck, so give me give me a moment of us with you. Um, but no, it's Daedalus. We started back in 2018, like just pre-COVID. And so there's a lot of weird stuff happening trying to start a business and then realizing you're going into that. And it actually kind of helped us, with the shutdown. People seem to get in their hobbies more, and there's like a mini boom in the industry. And so that helped us get our start. But basically, I come from more of an engineering background, and specifically, the most recent of which I had an interest in aeronautical engineering. And I had tried to start some startup businesses. This is like from 2014 to 2017, and tried to get stuff done, without having to work in the corporate environment or hire on with one of the big companies. It was a dream to start my own business or have my own
Yeah.
thing, and but it just never seemed to work out. Gobs of details on that or small finites, but it's just really hard to compete as a small business against really large corporations when you're talking about government contracts and that level of machine and business. And so, as back to the drawing board, my wife has an art history degree from the Savannah College of Art and Design. And so she has a lot of art history and art knowledge and color theory specifically. And because we were already in the industry, she was already a knitter, and we were dyeing our own yarns, and had a yarn dyeing business at the time. Um, that's where I said, well, I can help with the chemistry, and if you do the colors. And so we started a yarn dyeing business originally in 2016 or 2017. And at the point where we started dyeing fiber, as a dyer, dyeing fiber is just a whole nother thing. And so we felt obligated to teach ourselves how to spin yarn.
Yeah.
It just seemed like the right thing. We couldn't, to know that we were delivering a product that was correct, that was right, that, not only that the dyes were stuck, but it wasn't felted, or that, the fibers hadn't been harassed, or it was just a horrible, nightmare type of braid that you would receive. And so in that pursuit, when we started looking at options for spinning wheels that are on the market, we bought treadle wheels and learned to spin on just conventional treadle wheels. But at the point, the e-spinner, it was just kind of like the spark where I was like, God, I just really don't like what's out there. I just really feel like I could just build my own. And so I was that guy. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of them out there. There's just like, I'm going to put something together. I'm going to take an existing flyer or whatever and a motor and, kind of get it all together. But with my expertise, I hate to say expertise, but with my background in aeronautical engineering, what I had on hand and what my forte and the stuff that I'd recently been working with were high-end materials like carbon fiber, uh, structural titaniums, different grades of aluminum. And so I'd worked with all those exotic materials, and I said, well, I'm going to build something that's kind of crazy, or it'll have, like some titanium features, grade 5 titanium axle and gobs of carbon fiber. And just because, I basically had it on hand. And so what I built was the original wheel was called the Blackbird. And, I built her one, and she, of course, did the thing. She's like, "Look what my husband built me," and put some
Yeah.
pictures there. And we didn't realize it, but it just suddenly just caught fire, where we had a lot of people private messaging us wanting us to build. And I was sort of scared at first, and so I let it simmer for a little while. But then I finally pulled the trigger and built a bunch of Blackbirds, and then I realized, like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, as a product, it's something that, from the Blackbird to my most recent product, I still look at them and go, oh, well, what did I do different? Or where were my mistakes? And I'm just
Hmm.
really critical of my work. And it's just evolved over this time. So, now we've got several different models of spinning wheel. And like I said, we're branching out into other fiber tools. Now, of course, I got a whirligig, which is a Skeiner or Swift.
Yeah.
And the roly-poly is unique on the market because it's a nostopene winder. It's a ball winder, but it winds actual nostopene balls, and that's pretty unique on the market too. And so, and then now we're into looms, and so I'm wanting to kind of get more into that. It's a whole nother arena, working with woods and exotic woods and structural, and looms are a whole nother set of physics compared to spinning wheels as far as the strength that they have to be. And as far as an engineer goes, that's like a whole field of unmown grass that I get to go
Yeah.
and play in. And so it's been a really wild ride. Genuinely, I could talk on forever about it, but it's been a bucket list type thing, like forming Daedalus. And we started out with just me and my wife, and now we've got 7 or 8 employees. How many? We got 6 employees, and, and we're growing. I think we're even looking to hire more. So yeah, things are just awesome, man. Just really, we're absolutely blessed over here at the Daedalus house.
Yeah, no, that's really cool that like even just looking at the site and seeing now as of today, the recording, you guys have 5 wheels listed on the site. So there's kind of something for all types of spinners, whether they're looking for like lace or, art yarns. So you have like that wide range of it. So it's really cool. And I remember when I was looking for my electric wheel, it was just your company was one of the names that just kept coming up, talking to friends. So, and I saw you guys a couple years ago at Rhinebeck and then in Maryland, I think like 2 years ago. And then it was last year, Rhinebeck 2024, that I bought my Starling and literally saw improvements in my spinning like from day one, like so easy. We sat down at the house that night and I plugged it in and I'm spinning at the table and there's like 7 of us in the house. My friend is looking for me. They're like, "Where are you?" I was like, "I'm back here spinning." They're like, "I don't even hear your wheel. Like you I didn't know that you were doing anything." I was like, "Nope, back here." So it's really cool to see the company how it's grown and then the additional products because that like the roly-poly winder, the skeins that come off or the cakes that come off of that are really, really cool. They look great.
Yeah, that was a fever dream, designing that thing, because as an engineer, you see it in your head, you can draw it out in a CAD program, that yarn path and where it needs to go and the angle of that core, and then how that core rotates and how the flyer or whatever the system is that you have to kind of stripe the yarn around it. You can see it very plainly in your head down to the millimeter. It's just the math is just straightforward, like it's just writing on a wall. And then you design it and you build it and realize it sucks. That reality is just not exactly like what the math would have predicted. And so I spent so much time. We had over 1,000 skeins of yarn in the house. And when I was prototyping that, I balled so many skeins of yarn one night that testing it that I had them all sitting on the table, and it was late and I was watching all the balls on the table that were just sitting there and all of them were turning slowly. Like I had sea legs in my eyeballs from watching a ball turn all day and all night. And and so I had to move that core a millimeter at a time, forward and back and up and down, until I got that ball to where it would form in the right place. If you don't get that ball forming in the right place, after it starts, it kind of wants to fall to one side. You'll slough off the top or slough
Yeah.
off the bottom. And what the math predicted was about 2.5 millimeters wrong,
Oh,
and
wow.
it took a lot of trial and error. And so I had to go. There was a point that I had 1,000 balls of yarn,
That's
and,
crazy.
and I no longer had skeins. And so I stopped. And one night I designed. I said, "Well, I need a power skeiner. I need a way to break these balls back into skeins, so I can run them again and continue this process." And so in one night I designed Whirligig, which is the power skeiner in Swift.
Yeah.
I designed it. I didn't design it for production, which means overthought as far as how much plastic is used where, and print times and production times and how easy is it to assemble. No, it was going to be a one-off for me. So I designed it for me personally.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put some nice honeycombing and some nice artistic things in it. I wanted to have a Geiger feel, like the Aliens movies with the prop design on it.
Yeah.
And so I did. I built that one off. I put all the balls back into skeins and continued my testing. But then in the pictures that I was releasing to friends of the ball winder, they saw it in the background of the shots. And they were like, "What is that?" And so my close friends or whatever were like, "Oh man, you got to make me one." And so I made a few, and then pictures got out, right?
Oh.
And so then at that point, so I was like, "Well, I guess I'm making whirligigs too." And so that's why whirligig kind of has an essence or a nature or a flavor when you look at it, that it's not simplistic or Spartan in its design. It's probably overly ornate for what it needs to do, but it was a personal thing that I actually sell to the public now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Sometimes the best ideas come from that, right? Like you need it for yourself, and then there you go, new
yeah,
product.
absolutely.
So this was something I've wondered. Why all birds for the wheels? Where did the bird thing come from?
So, yeah. So, as part of the aeronautical engineering, the business that I had, I actually built prototype airplanes, fixed wing aircraft that were unmanned, and so I had actually a hangar or a small fleet of small fixed wing aircraft that I developed and was prototyping actively, and so all of them were all of them were airplanes. And so the first wheel that I bought was Blackbird, and so that's a reference more to the SR-71 Blackbird, the titanium spy plane that we flew over the Soviet Union in the 80s. And and I named it that because I laugh about this. I can't laugh about this now because I was so arrogant that I thought that this one wheel, I already had it in my mind that this is the one wheel to end them all. Like
Oh.
this is it'll do everything. It'll do fine yarns, it'll do heavy art yarns, it can go slow, it can go fast, it can travel, it can, you know, and genuinely when you first get into the field, you think that. You think, oh, why all these different wheels? You know, I can make one and just adapt it to it. Well, the physics doesn't, you know, you learn, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you eat mud pie, you know, you try to get humble and try to understand what you have to do. And that's kind of why I have so many different wheels now, is because I really like Falcon. That's a specialty wheel. I haven't sold a lot of those. It's such a high RPM and such a small capacity, but people who spin super short staples or like cottons, you know, like cotton specifically, that takes so much twist per inch that a highly adept or skilled spinner is always waiting on twist. No matter what the wheel is, they're always waiting on twist to occur.
yeah,
And so to have a 4,000 RPM wheel that you can actually use, that the bobbin isn't that latent and behind, that you actually have the chance to have very, very light take up on a very, very hyper speed wheel is really unique in the industry. And so that got the Falcon name. So all of them have bird names, kind of based on their ability and their you know, kind of what their intention is. But
okay,
yeah, I did learn that like the art yarns that need the, you know, the large, you know, the large orifice and the low speed torque and heavy take up. It's just hard to find a system like that in a single flyer that can also be high speed and super light, you know, to be able to spin really fine lace on, like embroidery thread level lace on.
yeah,
It's I ended up having to bifurcate, and so now I've got kind of different heads. Like Starling has a lace head, a standard head, and an art head,
right,
and there's overlap between them all, so you don't have to have all three.
yeah.
And any
Is
one by itself is still pretty potent.
Yeah, because I would say, like, looking at all the models, Starling, you would say, is that your most versatile out of, like,
Yeah,
kind of like the one for anybody who really wants to spin. Like, that's the most versatile, I think.
I, I tell people when they come up to me, you know, at a festival, and they say, you know, I say, do you spin? And they go, yeah, I spin. And they say, well, I'm interested in Starling. Starling has probably a 95% chance that it's going to satisfy you where you are now and where you're going to go.
Yeah,
Not knowing anything about what types of yarn you spin, what your skill level is, what your interests are. And so, you know, there's a small percentage of people that want to pursue the art yarns, and 8 or 9 out of 10 people that come up are like, oh no, I'll never do that. What can I do with highly textured, heavy yarns besides like weft and weaving? And I'm not a weaver, so you know, I can't knit with it, I can't crochet with it, and then or beehives. And but then the 20% that do that are hyper serious about it.
yeah,
So like I say, Starling has that ability, and then well. Starling, I said it has the 3 heads. It has an art head, it has a standard head. I built a lace head for Starling, but I didn't really build it. What I did was the Falcon head is really, really unique in the way that it's designed for over 4,000 RPM, and it still couples with the bobbin to make sure that the bobbin doesn't get too far behind the flyer and create
mhm,
unwanted pickup. But I noticed in polling most of my Falcon customers that they would spin in the 70 to 80% speed range on the dial. And out of 4,000 RPM, that puts them around 3,000 RPM. And that was like their comfort zone. Now, a few would go ahead and tap and max it out, you know, and those meant for those. But most of my Falcon owners are comfortable around 3,000, 3,200 RPM. And so I realized if I took the Falcon Flyer and head and just stretched it out to where it would fit on a Starling chassis, that you because it's stretched out and the motor system isn't the same, I couldn't push it to 4,000, but I could push it to three.
Yeah.
And, and I feel like that would suit most people. So what I said was, I've made a lace head for Starling that can get down to that uber fine embroidery thread. I'm talking 200, 250 wraps per inch, like really hard to measure wraps per inch. And I did it by stretching out the Falcon Flyer and slowing it down a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
So that way, Starling people, they don't have to buy, if they want that super ultra fine experience, they don't have to buy the whole Falcon.
Right, right.
They can just buy the head for their Starling.
That's cool.
So, but yeah,
And
yep.
then what's really cool is that starting, well, as of this recording, tomorrow morning, you guys are going to be announcing a new product. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's my latest and greatest. Um, yeah, super excited about this. Historically, like I say, I came into this with the wheels, with the exotic materials and the carbon fiber, and I use an aluminum drum braking system, which is unique, in the industry, to be able to shed the heat of a tension system and perform, steadily. But it costs money, you know what I mean? And so my prices, I wanted to come in and bring my prices in kind of in the mid range. I wanted a high end wheel and I wanted mid range prices. And no matter what I did, it was hard for me to get down to more of an entry level price point and still using these exotic materials. And also our construction, like our business model, we're a small company, and all of us are based right here in the Eastern United States. And, all of us are fiber people too, and all of us are spinners. And so we know like what it should be like to us when we build it. And then because of that, we spend a lot of time with your product. And again, that drives the price up, a little bit more. And so it was hard for me to come down. Sparrow historically has been my least expensive offering in the spinning wheel lineup, but still it was over $600 to get it with a digital speed control. And that was cost prohibitive for a lot of people who just want to get their feet wet. And I can't argue with those people. I just couldn't. Over time, I've looked at the chassis and the system and the components, and I have a lot. I order in bulk now, and so I have a lot. And so if I can reuse my existing components and parts and try to put them together and design a new wheel, and I've streamlined a lot of the way the wheel itself is designed to go together is designed to be easier for my employees to be able to put it together and tune it and test it and quality control it. And I've learned that from a lot of mistakes from all these years of designing all the other wheels when we run into problems like, oh, this part's hard to put together, or that takes Dave, and Dave only does this part. And so
Mhm.
I tried to eliminate those things, but still be able to deliver a high level product.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. Dove is the new spinning wheel. And I have one here actually.
Now that you say that, it makes so much sense. You guys were kind enough to send me one so that I could test out, and taking it out of the box without even looking at the instructions intuitively, with the exception of one piece, I
I
knew
know
where
the piece.
I knew where everything went. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this goes here, and I put it together and I had this one piece in my hand. I was like, wait, where does this go? And then I took it apart really quick, put that piece on, and like good to go in, I would say under 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's your initiation into the club. All of my test spinners, all of our local group, everybody who got pre-production prototypes had the tension knob in their
Yeah,
hand when they done. And they're like, oh, it goes there. Like you can see it
yeah,
after you put it together. And
yeah.
so you have a minor amount of foresight. So yeah, welcome to the club. Yeah, you're just like the rest of us there. Yeah, after you do it then that's your first time, like not even just looking at it and just poking it together in 5 minutes, you got it together. I think it takes me maybe 2 minutes to put it together with a bobbin and a belt without trying
Right.
to rush. Breaking it down, I can break it down in seconds.
Yeah.
And the way it stores, I mean, there aren't any real major parts, but that front unit has the motor and speed control and all that heavy electronics, and everything else is basically sticks. And so it packs down into a really nice small bundle to be able to travel.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's really nice about it. And because I have both here. I have my Starling and I have the Dove right here looking at it. And it's and I can see what you say now, how you like simplified kind of the construction of it. So it was really, really easy. Um, It's because that was going to be one of my questions, where this fit in the lineup, but you've already answered that, and that ma- it makes a ton of sense.
Yep. I wanted to be entry level, but at
Right.
the same time, I didn't want it to be a niche wheel. And
Right.
so a niche wheel is like Falcon. It's got a 6 millimeter orifice and 4,000 RPM and 2 ounce capacity. Sparrow was my low cost point. It had a 5 ounce bobbin and a 6 millimeter or quarter-inch orifice. And that's plenty to be able to spin like a DK or maybe pliant to an Aaron, maybe at worst, but nothing real heavier than that. Well, new spinners and people who are just getting started are trying out all these different thicknesses. And when you first started spinning, you spun in an art yarn. Your very
Right.
first skein of yarn was thick and chunky and crazy,
Right.
and your second one was thick and thin and inconsistent as heck. And then you finally get down into fingering weight, right, or maybe even lace weight, and then one day you're asked to go back and spin a DK single, and you can't. Like you
Yeah.
just can't seem to get it out. And
Right.
so but because those newer spinners, so this one has an 8 millimeter orifice, which is substantial. It's kind of halfway between what Sparrow and Starling is. Starling has a 12 millimeter orifice.
Hmm.
And so I did that particularly to give new spinners the ability to spin a slightly heavier yarn if that's the way they want to go, because Sparrow was just sort of limited. Sparrow's higher speed and a smaller capacity, and it lends itself to the lighter yarns. And I didn't want Dove to follow suit. I wanted Dove to have a little bit of capacity for extra weight and be able to do a little heavier gauge of yarn. And it's a little slower than Sparrow. Sparrow still, it's not being replaced by any means by Dove. They have two completely separate homes, kind of, in what people want to do and how they want to spin. And we've got on the website, we've got a which wheel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we talk about what you do and where you want to go with it and what these different wheels, what they favor and what they're capable of and what their limits are. And so Dove's going to kind of have its own area there, its own arena. But because of the price point, I expected, I hope that it's hugely popular. I mean, this is something I've been chasing. It's the biggest and most important product release to date for me personally as a designer and for Daedalus as a company in my mind, because it can just reach so many more people and teach new people how to spin yarn.
That's awesome. And that's exciting because it now having it, my Starling for just over a year, when anybody asks me, it's the wheel that I recommend. And I tell them, I was like, it's an investment. Like I'm super pleased with it. So to have an entry level one for people, that's really cool. And I noticed with this one, so the speed is actually a dial on this, which is different from the Starling. Was that done to help lower the cost of the wheel?
Both.
Okay.
By doing that's an analog speed control with a knob that's kind of built onto the unit, where our other wheels use an external digital speed control, which is substantially larger. Actually, probably as large as the front of the Dove itself.
Yeah.
Uh, the digital control is wonderful for advanced spinners, high speed spinning, because it has a programmable soft start and soft stop separately in the digital control that you can adjust. So if you got full bobbin or an empty bobbin, or you're spinning like lightning, or you're just crawling, you can make those that stop delay and that startup delay so it doesn't barf yarn off or
Hmm.
continue to spin after the flyer stops. And so although that's great, it's also expensive. The controller itself is, which might make it cost prohibitive for people to get in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a group of people who think that it's just too fancy, or like I don't need individual red LED. The difference between 47 and 46% speed does not matter to me. I would like a knob.
Right.
And and so with Martin was our first wheel that actually had a knob and an analog control. And I thought, man, people are going to hate this. My test spinners are going to be like, yeah, I tried it, but I went back to my Starling. And they're like, no, it's really intuitive and easy to use. And if it's the right knob, the right markings, and in the right spot, then it's just as easy as like a sewing machine pedal. I mean, it's just intuitive.
Yeah.
And so that was an effort to keep costs down and to keep the size down too, because this breaks down and it's so small after it's broken down for travel. And I wanted to, I didn't want to have a big hulking speed control that also had to go with it.
Yeah.
And
No, that
so,
makes sense.
so it's double edged. It was to keep costs down and keep the package size down as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I will say, like, using it, I use it really briefly, and I found the speed that I was comfortable with within a, I would say under a minute, and looking at the dial and knowing the difference of the RPMs between them, it's pretty right where where I would have been on the Starling based on my control box. Like, so it's right there in that same range. So it was super easy for me to find like my comfortable spot with spinning on that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll probably put all of our other wheels have really high-tech speed charts where we'll put the percentage of speeds between the different wheels and what the actual RPM comes out for all the different heads and all the different wheels. And Dove will fit in there as well, but of course it's not a digital; it's more of on a knob. Now,
Right.
I did try to choose a knob that was really nice. In other words, they had very sharp markings
Yeah.
between whole increments and the half increments. So it's real easy for me to see and change the difference between 5.5 and
Hmm.
5 3/4. And
Yeah.
so in my mind, it's not as coarse as I imagined it to be.
Yeah.
If
No,
that
the knob's fantastic. Like, I don't know, it being clear and just being able to like see everything, and it does, and like turning it, it's so precise still. It's not, you're not jumping from 4 to 5 really easily. Like, it's really, you get some precise movements with it where you can really adjust the speed kind of to where you want to be. So I was really, really happy that I found it really quickly and was like, okay, cool. Now I know what number on this dial I want to spin at. So it's just knowing that, like, and when I go from neutral back to my S or Z twist, like I don't have to move the knob. I using um the control switch to just go into neutral to stop my wheel.
right, exactly. Um, yeah, that was a major concern, or that was almost a primary design consideration that I had in going to it. Things that I didn't change, like the Daedalus DNA that makes, like I say, if you close your, when we have all our wheels set up at a festival, I say if you close your eyes, you can't really tell the difference between them because they have the same Daedalus DNA, meaning I designed the flyers. And so the way the physics of the structure of the flyer and the way it spins and the way it accelerates and it's light on its outboard, so it has low angular momentum, all my wheels kind of follow this sort of recipe, not just in the flyer design, but the all metal yarn path going through, so there's not restrictions on the yarn being held back, and then the braking system too with the aluminum drums, which I have those CNC made. I mean, they're expensive, like I say, but I didn't cut those corners on Dove because I wanted you to close your eyes and still feel almost like you're spinning on a Starling. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could even like, it's clearly a Daedalus when you look at it too. Like there's no denying it, and I think it spins just as well as my Starling. Um, what's really cool about this, and I don't know if you guys have it for any of the other ones, so it comes with your standard bobbins, but another additional option is the flat pack bobbins. Do you
Right.
do you guys offer that for any of the other wheels, or is it new to this one?
We do actually. Um, the flat pack bobbin was developed in parallel with the Dove project. In other words, I knew it was so small and it was going to compact down. I said I'm going to have to develop the flat pack bobbin, and basically that was developing a locking system that I could trust. And over the years, I never really could envision one that I thought like that isn't going to wear out or be flimsy or cheap feeling. Like I want it to lock up like bang bang like a bolt action on a military rifle. Like I want it nice, and it took me forever, and I finally did it. I ended up here. I have one here. This is a Dove flat pack bobbin, and it just twist lock, and so
Yeah,
it comes off, and so it's basically a cam system. But you'll notice and see how easy that was to put back together.
yeah,
The
for
core,
sure.
it's a fatter core. It's a 30 millimeter core, and the reason I did that, it keeps it a little bit. Is it allowed me to make it stronger. If I narrow the core down, all those end mechanics have to get smaller, and the lugs get smaller, and the contact points, develop more pressure, and so by making the fatter core, it it allowed me as an engineer to make a better structural joint. The sacrifice is, oh, it doesn't hold as much yarn now, but in all reality, when you talk about volumes of a circle, the area around the core, adding a few millimeters there or taking it away doesn't actually change much volume as compared to the outside of the bobbin. When you have a very, very large circumference, if you add a couple of millimeters of radius or diameter on that, then you get a tremendous volume change. And so, as a very, very minor sacrifice, I think it ended up being 3/10 of an ounce is
Oh,
what I lost between the standard bobbin. I think this is called an 8.25,
okay.
and I think we call this one a 7.9, just because of that difference in core
Yeah.
size.
No, that
All
was,
right.
yeah, it was really cool to see. I didn't know that you guys offered that. So I think that's a good option, especially because you could break this down. So it's all going to travel with you um,
Right.
easily if you
So this
decide to travel with it.
this was the Dove, or this is the actual Dove flat pack bobbin, and you see how short the core is. So basically, I just adapted it and just with a longer core, and they happen to have the same outside diameter. Starling and Dove share the same outside diameter on their
Oh,
bobbins.
that's awesome.
Starling's just much longer, and
Yeah.
so this is a flat pack bobbin for Starling.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. And then we also have it for this little guy here. Oh, I guess I should compare one. So here's Starling, the
Yeah.
biggest. And the little guy is, it was developed for Martin, but it'll actually also fit sparrow wheels.
Oh,
And
okay.
so this is a pack bobbin for Martin's existing Martin customers can order these. New Martins are going out with these as standard equipment.
Oh, that's cool.
And like I say, and it does work on Sparrow as well. And so our Sparrow customers that travel, it's a small bobbin to begin with. I think the Starling customers are going to appreciate this because this is just so much harder to travel with, and being able to break it down is so nice. But the
Yeah.
Sparrow people travel a lot too, and so I wanted to not leave them out. So we have them for Dove, Martin, Sparrow, and Starling at this point.
Nice. Let's see, what else did I want to ask? I think we actually covered a ton of the stuff that I wanted just in conversation that I wanted to ask about the Dove. Um, when when you guys start shipping the Dove?
Excellent question. Um, I think was it January 24th?
That's the first online
Is
sale.
with all right. So the online sale is January 24th. We're going to be at a fiber festival in Waukesha, Wisconsin, called Fiber Blitz, the week before that. That's the 17th and the 18th, and we will actually have doves, a limited number of doves for sale there, and so that'll be the actual first public offering. Online will be January 24th. We are going to have a large number of doves already produced, tested, quality controlled, boxed, and ready to ship within the next couple of weeks, after January 24th. And then after that product sells out, we'll actually be accepting a limited number of pre-orders to make sure that we can still fulfill them within the next 60 days after January 24th. And so we're going to take a big bite of doves at the end of January, and I'm really excited.
That's awesome. That's super
Yeah.
exciting. I think people are going to love it. I'm excited to see people get one in their hands in January once they ship.
Yep.
Um, let's see if I had anything else. No, I think that's all I had to ask because we covered, I think, most. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about the Dove or any other products? I think I got everything that I was thinking about.
The only thing that maybe I left out, the $399, it comes with three bobbins, everything you need to get
Oh, okay.
started. It's three of the normal, not the flat pack, but three of the standard bobbins. And $399 is an introductory price that we're going to be offering on the ready to ship and pre-order wheels. After I run out of that, I'm going to have to reorder parts and equipment. And depending on how taxes and all that situation goes,
Yeah.
I may have to go back to its normal retail price, which hasn't actually been set. I promise it won't be over $500. That will
Okay.
be my 499, be as high as it is. I'll end up just basically taking whatever the extra that the equipment costs me and just kind of tacking it on. But right now is the time to do it while I've got the stock on hand, and
Yeah.
I'm able to work off what I have on hand. Now's the time to buy in on Dove.
Something else I just thought of. Are you guys going to offer like the other reels? Are you going to offer it in multiple colors or are you going to have a standard color at first?
For now, we're just going to stick with the black and white.
Yeah.
We kind of started with a really neutral palette like that. In high volume production, it makes it a lot easier for us to just keep dumping black parts. And if we have a bad part, we can just throw it away and bring a new one in. When you get custom colors and there's a bad part, now you've got to re-rig a printer and produce just one part in that specialized color. And that's the thing about our more expensive wheels, because you get to choose your colors with them. That's part of the price. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes time and effort. And so for the time being, they're all just going to be black doves. Um, I can't say down the road. I would absolutely say no. Anytime with a new wheel or a new design, I have to test it. I have to print all the different colors of plastic aren't the same, and I have to print them all out and
Oh,
test them, and make sure that they're going to survive the test of time. And I
yeah.
can't say I won't go down that road, but for an upcharge maybe. But for at least for the time being, this initial search, they're all going to be black.
All right, cool. No, that's good to know. Hey,
Yep.
it looks good in black and white. I bet like I'm excited to throw a white wheel on here and just kind of see what it looks like with the flat pack. Because I went straight to the standard bobbin, but then I
Right.
saw the flat pack. I was like, oh, the black and white's gonna look really good.
Right.
Um, all right, cool. I think that's all I had. I'm I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
Thank you.
So yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching, obviously reaching out to us, and I'm glad that we were able to set this up and get this recorded and have it out after you guys make your announcement tomorrow.
Yeah. No, thank you. Honestly, thank you for letting us use your platform. And I appreciate the collaboration.